Thanks very much, Matthew. And it's a great honour, actually, to be the inspiration for tonight's event. And I think I'm probably the queen of business nightmares. I'm going to tell you about two of my own nightmares tonight, just to encapsulate a bit of my own journey. But what I would say, and I'm sure those people who are in business already know it, is that starting a business and becoming an entrepreneur is a bit like getting on a roller coaster. And once you're on that roller coaster, it's tremendous highs and tremendous lows, but the whole thing is a fantastic adventure. And so I would just say, roll with it and accept that that is part of your journey. I started Red Letter Days, my first company, when I was 24. Had nothing, didn't really have any funding. I just had a great idea to do a business around experiences, about hot air ballooning and motor racing, and giving these things as great gifts for people. And so with all that kind of energy and enthusiasm that you get when you're starting and launching your first business, I kind of plunged into it, went out, formed my company. And my first business nightmare was really that first 18 months, which was just absolutely desolate, when nothing was working, sitting in an office at home with a phone which just never rang, burning up all my cash on advertising which didn't work. And it was a really, really agonising and soul-destroying time. During which period, I came to that point so close, so many times of giving up on my business idea altogether. And I ploughed all my savings into this business, £50,000, wasted on advertising that didn't work. And I now know that this dark period is something that practically every entrepreneur experiences, and particularly if you're a startup starting from scratch. It's called the pit, and it's actually why it's something like 2/3 of all businesses fail, because you just get to that point where not only is all the money gone, but all of your energy's gone too, and you kind of lose faith and give up hope on your business idea. But the way that I survived the pit was actually to ask for help. It's amazing how many people suffer in silence. I was freelancing at the time for a guy in accountancy, and I said, I really can't make this business work. He sent me to see one of his clients who was a marketeer and a designer, and this guy took me under his wing, and he helped me redesign everything and relaunch it, persuaded my husband to finance that. And literally, the moment that our new brand collateral and our new marketing campaign broke, the business literally took off overnight, and we took £30,000 within 3 weeks, which isn't a lot of money, but to us, suddenly the business had taken off. And one thing I would say to you, if you're starting in business and you're struggling, you're pushing and you're pushing, when you get it right, it can go from nothing, and you reach a tipping point where it can go very, very fast. And what we found was, once we got the formula right, and once we got the marketing right, and once we got that proof of concept, the business snowballed, and it went very exponentially. And really, it was then just a case of running with it, running with every opportunity, giving great service, getting lots of word of mouth, referrals, recommendations, and using PR to the max. And I continued like that for well over a decade, and it was a fantastic business, and it was just really exciting and really great fun. And we got to the stage by 2001 where we were turning over £10 million and making a profit of £1 million a year. Wow, when you're an entrepreneur, gosh, you're making £1 million a year, you've got a business making £1 million a year, really, all you really need to do is turn the sausage machine handle and just keep churning out £1 million a year. That's really all you need to do. But of course, us entrepreneurs never can we? We always have to push it. We always have to see how far we can take it. And, for me, everything in the garden was really rosy, and I was even starting to win awards for my business success. But I think it's true to say that in business, you're sometimes actually at your most vulnerable when you're doing really well, because you start to get the Midas touch and you start getting complacent, and you think, this is, where can I take this? And you start becoming too ambitious. By that point, Red Letter Days had entered the retail sector. We'd created an experiences range for boots. We'd launched a fantastic range for Debenhams, which sold millions of pounds worth. And we were getting purchase orders, contracts for £6 million worth of product, which was really incredible. And opportunities to work with every retail chain. And at that point, we were actually overwhelmed with opportunity, and I kind of had a crisis of confidence, and I just couldn't see the wood from the trees anymore, and I realised that I needed some help. So this was the start of my second and biggest business nightmare. I decided to bring in some management consultants to help me. And they came up. It was a very fantastic PowerPoint. It really was. And it was a fantastic new marketing and brand strategy for the business. And this new strategy involved the implementation of 30 projects, which, looking back, one project is difficult enough. 3 projects, maybe 30. It was just crazy. And they also suggested to me that as an entrepreneur who'd taken the business from nothing to a turnover of 14 million by that point, that maybe the time had come to hand over the reins to a proper CEO who could actually implement this strategy. And I kind of thought, well, actually, it's true, because I don't actually know how I got here. And you do have this crisis of confidence. How did I make this happen? And maybe I'm not good enough, actually. So I brought in this chief executive. I parachuted him in from a big corporate, got lots of headhunters in, and I stepped back into a non-executive chairman role. And it's a fatal mistake. I've since learned many entrepreneurs have made that mistake to their cost. Crucially, I didn't have a strong enough finance director to control what was going on. And if you're an entrepreneur and you hand over the reins of your business, you've got to have management information which is telling you what is happening. Just 9 months later, I realised that I had to return to sort out the mess, that we'd gone from being a £1 million profit-making business 18 months before to making a £4.7 million loss. You have a decision at that point. Do I just let it crash or do I save it? But I think when you've given birth to a business and you've nurtured it, you can't let it go. You've got to do everything you can to try and save that business. And I spent the next 2.5 years desperately trying to bring the business back into health. As you can imagine, I fought tooth and nail during those last years, and in particular those last final months, fought tooth and nail, calling on every piece of help imaginable. But there does come a point when you know that the plane is going to crash, because I think entrepreneurs are all full of optimism, think something will happen, a white knight will appear over the horizon, but there comes a point when you know it's going to crash. That point came for me on 28th July 2005. I remember the day well. I'd given birth to my 4th son just 3 days earlier, and the press had got hold of the story that the company was in trouble. The newspapers were full of speculation, and I went straight from this kind of everything's fine interview with the Sunday Times straight to an emergency meeting with our insolvency advisors to decide what should be done. And I remember it well because I had husband and baby in tow, and I had to sort of leave the meeting to go and breastfeed on the reception sofa. And on our way home that night, about 9 o'clock that night, with my husband sort of driving me home with the baby in the back, we just looked at one another and just said, this is ridiculous. Because I think when business gets that stressful, you have to ask yourself, is it worth it? So we attended a meeting of the lawyers to set the wheels of administration in motion. And, the moment that administration paperwork is signed, that this whole room of expensive lawyers just completely evaporated. It's just like a hospital room where the patient has died. And because you're nothing anymore. Once you've signed your company away and the administrators are in control, thank you very much, job done, and they know they've earned their fee. So we were just left, my husband and I, and this little baby in his chair on this boardroom table, just totally drained by the day's events. But, the interesting thing was that the moment I decided to let go, what I actually felt, instead of the anticipated nervous breakdown and dread and fear of that, actually what I felt was absolute liberation, that the nightmare was finally over. And what actually happened was all sorts of amazing new stuff started to flow into my life. And I realised, actually, looking back, that I should have let go of that business a long time before that. And interestingly, one of the great opportunities which came out of it was a contract to write my first book, which had always been my ambition. So great stuff can come out of adversity, and hopefully that's the theme of tonight, is no matter how dark it gets, there's always light at the end of the tunnel.